joyful, jubilant jumping jacks.
Oh, Natsume, I'm so pleased for you.
Locum student, Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire, and non-local locum judicial assistant, Miss Mikatobe. I now, finally, at long last, there can be proof. Proof that I'm innocent and proof that my tea is innocent.
Aha! Good morning, my dear fellows.
Herlock
Sholmes! Sorry, I kicked the table.
May you drink your tea, May you drink my tepid tea and fall forever silent.
I thought the tea was innocent. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, you came. How wonderful. Please, save your derision. I know what you're all thinking. Good morning, he says, when it's very nearly time for luncheon. Your scorn is written clearly across your faces. Nobody said or thought anything of the sort. The truth is, I was determined that the day would be the day. As sleep seduced me last night, I thought, tomorrow, for once, I shall not oversleep. I'll rise early and be present in court to support my companions. Such spirited determination has a beauty all of its own, does it not? Oh, yes. Now then, I begin to muse on the subject. Why do people oversleep? I queried. Why, time after time, do they make the same foolish blunder? And the answer came to me at once. It's so delightfully simple. People oversleep because they sleep. Excellent insight. Well, is that not an astute insight into the matter? Oh, yes. Upon which realization I attempted an experiment. I didn't sleep a wink all night. And the result? By first light, I was exhausted and began to be assailed by fits of drowsiness. Shocking. And so, the conclusion of last night's experiment is this. A good night's sleep is quite simply essential. Thank God that Sholmes is here to do the research into these extremely complex issues. Yes, I think most of us probably knew that already. What others presuppose, I prove by examination. That, my dear fellow, is the scientific method. Ah, yes, and one more thing. Do you remember this? Ah. Yes, of course. It's the poison that Miss Green was about to drink at the hospital yesterday. Oh, you didn't manage to... It was a laborious task, as the bottle was near empty, but such inconvenience do not hinder Sholmes. I managed to confirm that it contains strychnine. So I was right. Perhaps. Though, of course, such circumstantial evidence doesn't prove Miss Green's guilt. I shall leave the bottle in your care now, but licking the inside of the neck is not recommended. Thank you. Ah, could I have a word? Gregson, how good of you to come. Forget it. Excuse me. Wait a minute, Inspector. I, don't wish to make a nuisance of myself. From the look on your face, I'd say it's someone else who you think is making a nuisance. My dear Inspector, please speak freely. Pretend I'm not here. Believe me, if I could do that, life would be a whole lot simpler for me. Do you have the results, Inspector, of the investigation of Shamspeare's room? Not yet. Shouldn't be long now, though. Nah, I'm here to talk about something else. That dead convict, actually. Oh, you mean the man from this newspaper article? A man by the name of Aya Selden. I went through the archives at the yard and dug out the fella's file. There's something in there that, well, it caught my eye. Something caught your eye? What, Inspector, what? I've copied out the relevant parts for you so you can read it for yourselves. Thank you. We should have a gander. 18 counts of burglary, 6 counts of suspected murder, busy man. Died of natural causes whilst in prison. His final moments witnessed only, by his cellmate. The estimated £1,000 worth of loot he stole remain unrecovered. Manchester's Strangeway prison announced the death of convicted murderer and burglar Selden by natural causes in the early hour this morning. He had suffered with fever since the end of October, alerted by the shouts of his fellow cellmate. Medical staff arrived to help him, but already dead, before his capital punishment could be carried out. As fun as that would be to save someone's life, only to then hang them, you know? So, clearly the way this is going is that Shamspeare was trying to get into the room so that he could find Selden's loot, right? The question now is, how, if the money was in the apartment, how was it not located when they presumably would have investigated the room? Mind you, the police are universally terrible in Ace Attorney. These documents include the details that were in the newspaper cutting we found in Shamspeare's room. I'll rearrange everything in the court record so we don't have duplicate information. Why are you giving us a copy of this important file, though? Well, you're the ones who turned up the clue in the first place, aren't you? I'm just making sure things get handled in the proper fashion. Oh, Scotland Yard's workings are so wonderful. Indeed, my dear fellows, and the inspector here is a shining diamond in its crown. A shining diamond in the rough, maybe. Look, I don't want to be beholden to a lawyer, that's all. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court proceedings are about to resume. Well, I shall leave you then. I'll be listening with interest from the public gallery, not nodding, of course, not nodding off at all. Certainly not. Thanks, Sholmes. I'm rather tired of seeing Mr. Moustache in the floods of tears, personally. So, the best of luck to you.
Locum student, Mr. Naruto, Esquire.
Yes, Natsume.
It's time, isn't it?
Yes, this is it. Miss Olive Green and Mr. William Shamspeare. This is going to be the final battle. Seems like every segment is the final battle. I won't really have saved Soseki-san until I've exposed the whole truth of everything that's been going on. But it's all coming to a head now. You can do it, Ryunosuke. You have to. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare, we resume. Before the recess, we heard a most startling accusation from the defense. I feel like I've forgotten what everybody sounded like. Namely, that the victim of the case we heard here only a few moments ago is the true perpetrator. A reckless, rash, and prejudiced charge of wrongdoing, in my opinion, my lord. However, the prosecution has tried to extend every courtesy to this amateur newcomer from dubious Eastern shores. Thank you for that backhanded consideration. A rather cold assessment from the Honourable British Prosecutor. So, Lord Von Zykes, is the new witness present and ready to take the stand? Ready and waiting in the witness's antechamber, my lord. Very well. Bailiff, bring the witnesses in. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court, please.
William Shamspeare, my liege. For mine occupation, I can say only that I be a tragic victim, to be pitied.
Currently unemployed, in other words.
I'm Olive Green. I'm a fledgling artist. Well, no, not a fledgling, really. A hopeless failure who's too weak-spirited to admit she has no talent.
Also currently unemployed, in other words. What a coterie?
Mr. Shamspear, my lord, I am thy humble servant. I'm afraid that you are no longer merely the victim in this affair. The possibility has been raised you are in fact the assailant, intent on taking the life of your fellow lodger. The part you have played in this whole business will be thoroughly scrutinized. I would for naught else, my lord.
And Miss Green, what the fuck was that?
Yes.
You are aware of the reason you have been summoned to this courtroom, I presume?
Yes, the officer did explain. He said I poisoned this ridiculous buffoon.
And do you accept the charge? Unlikely, though a bold strategy.
I don't know anything about any poisoning. And I don't know anything about this man.
Come, lady, die to live. Verily I know not thy prickly pigmented personage.
What the fuck? Very well, proceed with the matter at hand. That being to assess whether or not Miss Green has any involvement.
It's all very strange indeed. Why would you suspect me? I barely ever go to the East End anyway. It so happens I passed that neighborhood 6 days ago, that's all. And on the night that this man was poisoned, I was still in hospital fighting for my life.
Yes, having been unfortunately caught up in the incident on the street outside the Gary household. An incident that rendered you unconscious for some 3 days.
I was struck in the middle of my back by a knife through no fault of my own, and now I'm under suspicion? What other irrelevant things might I be suspected of? It's all very disturbing.
Your energies may be better spent worrying about random knife attacks, I feel.
At this point in time, all that appears to connect you with Shamspear's lodgings is the Briar Road incident of 6 days ago. That's why we would like you to testify formally now about exactly what happened.
Oh no. The incident 6 days ago? You don't mean you want me to relive that awful accident?
Unfortunately, yes. Please tell the court what happened that day. And of course, we will be interested to hear from you about your movements that day too, Shamspear.
But what happened 6 days ago is nothing to do with me being poisoned.
So he says.
Let us proceed. The witnesses will present their testimony. And on the subject of the incident that took place on Briar Road.
It was 6 days ago, at about 5 p.m., I was walking along in the snow when I was suddenly stabbed in the back. Coincidentally, it just happened to be outside the house where the men in this case have their lodgings.
I was at the tavern on the eve of which thou speakst,
for I had bespoke my supper. It was the first time I'd been in that area. I had little matter to attend to, that's all. Anyway, I was admitted straight to hospital, so I know nothing about all of this business.
Yes, a second incident within inside a week at what I believe to be the aptly described haunted lodgings. One can only presume this is a most unfortunate coincidence.
Meanwhile, you say you were not in your room, Shamspear.
'Twas the following morn when I did awaken that I learned of the dire events. Marry, what a commotion the officers of the law make on the floor above mine.
When Soseki-san was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. As suspected, there is nothing connecting these two witnesses but happenstance. It's true, it does seem as though they're unrelated. I am fairly unclear of really how we came to the conclusion to summon Green. I did it through process of elimination. I'm not really sure how anyone else came to this conclusion. There's something lurking in the shadows here, I feel certain of it, and this is my one and only chance to expose it.
Counsel, you may now cross-examine these witnesses.
Yes, my lord.
It was 6 days ago at about 5 p.m. I was walking along.
I'm well acquainted with the case. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
It was awful. I still can't believe I was unconscious for so long. And I woke up to find that case had been solved and the culprit had been arrested.
Yes, the incident had been resolved already. Perhaps it would help you to consider it a bad dream that ended with your awakening, and should now be forgotten.
Yes, I suppose so, thank you.
But before you put it completely behind you, Miss Green, I need you to remember the details, one last time. You must tell the court exactly what happened that day, for us to arrive about the truth.
The trouble is, there's nothing to tell, really. I was just walking along the pavement.
Well, what were you doing prior to that?
Coincidentally, it happened to be outside the lodgings.
What were you doing there that day, though?
What do you mean?
Don't turn auto on. The art school you attend, what's it called?
Ah, yes, it's Thorndike Academy of Fine Arts.
According to Mr. Sholmes, that's just in the vicinity of Brixton Road, which is some 10 stops away from the scene in the underground. I believe you mentioned before that you also live on Brixton Road, is that right? So, why, then, would you have been walking along Briar Road in the middle of the East End?
Well, it's because, oh yes, of course, I thought it might make a nice picture.
You did? Interesting. The witness is a student of art. City-dwelling artists can't all paint grand urban vistas.
That's right. I happen to like the crumbling look of that part of town.
If you say so. Perhaps quaint would be less a grading term. Point is, she's definitely hiding something. Yes, it seems she's not going to be forthcoming with the truth. If she's trying to hide why she was there that evening, it must mean there's a reason for us not wanting to know, of course. And you, Shakespeare, on the evening of 6 days ago, would you tell the court what exactly you were doing?
It would be my pleasure, sire. I was at the tavern.
A tavern, you say? Which one?
'Twas the Slug and Salad where I did tarry. 'Tis a jewel in the East End.
And a little unexpected, I feel. What do you mean, Van Zykes? The Slug and Salad offers unusually fine dining, for the locality at least. Not an establishment you'd expect to be patronized by a man with not even a crumb of bread in his room. It's true, the menu lists premium crusts of bread and glasses of water, and different levels of cloudiness. Oh. I would have expected Grubb's grubbery in the local vicinity to be more appropriate for your means. Watery soup and mushy peas. Or rather, soupy water and pea-like mush. All equally appetizing.
I just wanted to try some water in a different pub for once. What's wrong with that?
How different can water really be? Or perhaps there's a more plausible explanation, a specific reason why he had to go to that particular establishment. The fact that on that day of all days he dined at a place he wouldn't normally does stand out. So Shakespeare's own actions on the day of the incident 6 days ago were slightly suspicious. I wonder if we have some evidence that can explain those actions, do we? What would that be, exactly? I don't know what it is. Let's try pressing the other comments first. I wish we did, but sadly I can't think of anything. If we find a clue that could explain why we must present it. Yes, absolutely.
It was the first time I'd been in the area. I had a little matter to attend to.
What little matter, Miss Green? Please elaborate.
It was nothing, really. It's not worth mentioning.
If you remember, you mentioned it to us yesterday at the hospital.
Ah.
It was related to the card you were holding. Miss Green? From memory, I believe the card contained a note that read, I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross.
What does that matter? This has nothing to do with Duncan.
Is that so?
Excuse me.
Shamspear, do you have something to share?
To be or not to be? That is the question. Ah, pray forgive me. The great bard's words springeth forth from within me with ne'er a thought.
Don't tell me it's because you're possessed by Shakespeare. Hearing Miss Green's words a moment ago seemed to make you think of something. Something of relevance, perhaps?
Well, nay, sire, 'twas nothing at all.
Presumably you know the name, though, Mr. Duncan Ross, I mean. After all, you were both lodgers in the same house.
I would it were so, but sadly, nay. Lodging be a lonely occupation, sire. My lodging fellows be rarely known to me.
So you haven't heard of him, even though he passed away in the room just one floor above you?
Miss Green?
Me?
My lord? Have I done something wrong? The card that was mentioned before, containing the note, do you have it upon your person?
I do, yes, but I don't need it anymore. In fact, I should throw it away, really.
Before you dispose of it, the court would like to take it as evidence.
It's snooping time. Or did we read this and I just don't remember what it was? The envelope has been... Yes, of course. Miss Green strikes me as the type to open... Ah, we've got the opposite end of this, of course. We can prove a connection. Ah, what is it? The way the paper... Yes, of course. Yes. They go together perfectly. This torn off end of the envelope belongs with this card. We did it. Yes, correct. It's Duncan Ross.
Now continue with your testimony.
Alright, so back it up. No, I need to press again, of course. There was an option halfway down. I was entering that phase where I'm like, what's going on? Yes, we have evidence. Mr. Shamspear?
Yes, sire.
On the day in question, it's not the case you normally visit the... is not a place you'd visited. The Slug and Salad, a place you don't normally patronize for a very particular reason.
I don't know what you're talking about. Pray, if thou hast some purpose, speak.
Very well, I will present the court. This half, right? I believe this torn-off piece of envelope reveals the answer, because it fits together perfectly with the envelope of the card that was submitted into evidence.
Good lord! Miss Green's card, you mean?
That's right, my lord. It reads, I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad. Don't tell anyone else about this letter or the meeting. It is of the utmost importance. Mr. Shamspear, your actions on the afternoon of Miss Green's stabbing are exactly as described in this note.
Ah!
Personally, I find it hard to believe that's a coincidence. Don't you, Shamspear?
Well... Excuse me. Can I say something?
Yes, Miss Green.
That card was delivered to me. It doesn't have anything to do with this odd man, does it?
Well, you'd think so, yes, but it's hard to believe it's merely...
My lord, may I?
May you what, Miss Green? I'd like to make something very clear about that card.
Very well, you may amend your testimony to include details about the particular note.
This note was delivered to me at my address. It has nothing to do with the odd man next to me.
Hold it!
I think you said that you received it the day before the incident, didn't you?
Yes, that's right.
There appears to be no indication of the sender's name or address on the envelope.
It was in my letterbox, and that's all I know, I'm afraid. I have no idea. Then how do you know? Then how can you possibly say it has nothing to do with him if you don't know who gave it to you? I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Who is this Duncan Ross? A friend of mine. He attended the same art school as I do. He passed away in a tragic accident a few months ago. I wasn't sure what to make of the note, to be honest, but in the end I decided to go.
So you found out what the information was?
Of course I didn't. You're not thinking straight.
Whilst on her way there, she was stabbed in the back, as my learned friend hopefully remembers.
Ah, yes, of course. So you never made it to the meeting.
Mr. Naruhodo, you pursued Shamspear wonderfully. It's worked out well, hasn't it? We have a new clue. Alright, really insightful objection somewhere. As you've managed to expose this promising new angle, I wonder if you should try to develop that. Ah, yes. Uh-huh. So... how do we disprove this part? It's nothing to do with the odd. I mean, it came like. I don't really know how to address this other than what we already did, which was presenting the other end of the envelope, but I mean, apparently that's not enough.
Objection!
Oh, I do just present it again. Why did this need to be two separate presentations of the same piece of evidence? The day before the incident, exactly 1 week ago now, this note was delivered to your address, and upon carrying out the instructions in the note, you found yourself in hospital.
Yes, I did. It's terrible, everything that's happened to me.
Yes, it is terrible. If it's all true, that is.
What do you mean?
Miss Green, have a look at this, please. It's the torn-off end of the envelope.
Oh, is it?
And it so happens that it fits together perfectly with the envelope on the note you received.
Where did you find that?
In Shamspear's room.
In my room.
Mr. Shamspear, do you perhaps remember this note from somewhere? Your actions that afternoon followed the instructions in the note to the letter. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th, and so that's exactly where you went. Let me ask you again, Mr. Shamspear. You already knew about this note, didn't you? And you, Miss Green?
What did I do?
And this torn-off note as this torn-off end of the envelope proves, the note was originally in Shamspear's room. So, how is it came to be in your possession?
I don't have the first idea. I'm just a fledgling artist.
That is a frankly unacceptable response to that question. There's only one explanation. You broke into Shamspear's room and stole it.
You did what? Sorry, thou hast what? You broke, thou were in my room? What on earth did you want with me?
It would seem that both witnesses need to testify again.
Miss Green.
Yes?
Whilst you have the court's sympathy, I'm sure, for the suffering you have endured in recent events, anyone found to be giving false testimony in a court of law will be duly punished. Please bear that in mind.
Yes, I know. Very well, witnesses, one more form of testimony on the subject of this anomaly.
I do have the sheer balls of her response, though. This envelope was in his room. How did it get there, exactly, if it was delivered to you? I don't know. Well, shit, that's a fucking airtight, isn't it, Chief? Damn.
I do remember now, 'twas a week ago, per adventure, that note was delivered on to me. On the day writ therein I did tarry a long hour at the Slug and Salad, yet nobody came. Thereafter, on the evening I shared the company of a Japanese fellow, I did see the note had vanished.
I don't know what you mean. You think I snuck into the man's room, do you? Why would I? I can point out the villain here, and as for that torn-off piece of the envelope, I don't know anything about it.
You now claim to have received this letter, do you, Shamspeare?
Faith, 'tis so, my lord, and I would swear to have set it upon the table in my humble lodgings. And yet 'tis clear to me now that since I returned from the tavern that night, I have not laid eyes upon it.
Well, that being the case, young lady, it would appear your testimony was...
A lie? Is that what you think? How unfair of you to think I'm the one lying.
I beg your pardon?
I'm just a fledgling artist, as I said, and fledgling artists don't lie.
Oh.
That note was delivered to my address. Besides, we all know who the liar around here is.
If that's true, Miss Green, how do you explain the facts? This part of the envelope was, without question, found.
I don't see why I should explain.
Sorry?
I'm a fledgling artist. My job here is to say, this is unacceptable.
As far as I'm concerned, you should be arrested right fucking now for this response. How do you explain your obvious presence here as not having been you?
Why should I explain that? I don't know.
How could something I have gotten into somebody's room? I don't know. Why are you even asking me, to be honest? The fledgling will do his best. Evidently, my learned friend's cross-examination is our only hope of learning the truth.
Well, counsel?
I'm ready, my lord.
Very well, the defense will proceed with the examination.
Miss Green clearly did break into Shamspeare's room, there can be no question. And that's how she acquired the note. Yes, two facts are starting to lead me to a possible explanation. And it's not a pretty one. And can you shed any light on the contents of the note?
Nay, sire, 'tis as strange to me as a foreign tongue. Even with knowledge of literature as great as mine own, verily, 'tis impenetrable.
But Mr. Duncan Ross had lodgings in the same household as you. In effect, he was your neighbor, so surely you knew him, didn't you?
Alack, if the choice is betwixt I knew him and I knew him not, then 'tis with foreboding that I be forced to declare we were by some small measure acquainted.
Despite your claims, though, you followed the note's instructions and went to the Slug and Salad. Presumably that was nothing to do with your knowledge of literature.
Marry, naught will have the better of me, sire, save for the lure of curiosity. So 'tis true, I was compelled by mine own eager heart to betake myself to the tavern, yet in the end my curiosity was not sated.
Get him. So after waiting for an hour, nobody arrived?
Well, yes, sire, 'tis as thou sayest.
Really? You paused for a moment before you answered.
In truth, when thou asked whether nobody appeared, I did suddenly recall.
Really? Do you mean to tell the court that somebody did appear after all? I was not alone that night at the Slug and Salad, my lord. No, 'tis returning to me now. I did treat my lips to almost clear water, and mine innards to a premium crust of bread. And all around me danced a great many companions.
What do you mean?
Flies, sir, flies. Good lord. In the name of Beelzebub, what were they? Fairies, perchance, from a midsummer night's dream, come to taunt me. I think that, what the fuck are you talking about, actually? I think they were just flies. I can't help thinking the flies ought to choose something more wholesome to buzz around. Is that wrong of me? When exactly did you notice it had gone missing? Such idle thoughts ne'er occupy my mind. I am busied with greater ideas. In other words, you didn't notice. Several days passed between your outing to the tavern and Mr. Natsume's visit to your room. Yes, it would appear the note disappeared sometime in that interval. Such idle thoughts ne'er occupy my mind. I am busied. And yet at that time, Miss Green was comatose in a hospital, was she not? Clearly then she could not have been stealing things from Shamspeare's room.
Yes, of course. It's all some sort of misunderstanding, isn't it, Mr. Prosecutor?
You have so far failed to give a satisfactory explanation as to how you came by the note. I am not here to advocate for your defense, madam. I won't tolerate inconsistencies in your story. You would do well to remember that.
Oh, dearie me.
What's Van Zyke's getting at? Why would I? It seems the note was actually delivered to Shamspeare about 1 week ago.
Oh, does it?
But for some reason, it ended up in your possession. I can't think of any way that could have happened except for you breaking into Shamspeare's lodgings. Or when Shamspeare was at the hospital. Because we did see him interact with Miss Green. And it was after that we caught her reading that note.
Objection!
But for what reason would the witness have done that? I won't deny that Miss Green's possession of the note would appear to defy logic. However, until and unless her involvement in this case can be proven in some way, any further pursuit of this note is meaningless. Miss Green could only have come into possession of the note by stealing it from Shamspeare's room, and yet there's no obvious reason why she would have done such a thing. What if there was some other reason she broke into his lodgings, though? Yes, we should pursue that idea. We're close now, I can feel it. Might as well press on the last one as well. So you don't want to tell the court the truth about the letter, is that it?
I'm a fledgling artist, remember? Yes.
Introverted, fey, this fledgling doth readily cast aspersions on my about
What the fuck is wrong with me?
Yet I am an angel, a seraph. Birds do harmonize with my song, the wind doth frolic. Oh, pity wherefore thou accuse one so pure of heart, ample woman.
Pure of heart? I don't think so. Even a fledgling artist like me can see you're just a failure.
Tragedy! Thou shalt not know the true heart of an artist until thine instruction hereafter by death. Oh, the days, oh, the years, alas, to enlighten.
What the fuck are you talking about? So Naruhodo interject with some clever remark. This is your chance to shine. No Shakespeare actor. As far as I can tell, the only thing that's going to resolve this argument is evidence, yes. It's clear Miss Green did break into Shamspeare's room, and that's where she found the letter. Two more or less foregone conclusions. Yes, I'm afraid to say that the outcome of this cross-examination may well change how we look at this case completely. Some other reason that she broke him, and she found the letter there. Do you think we just present the Strychnine now? Do you think we just come out right here and accuse her of putting it on the lamp?
Objection!
Fuck, that's right. Damn. I wasn't expecting us to take such a bold approach to this. Yesterday at the because I mean, we already kind of knew that this would be the case, but I didn't think we'd go there just yet. Yesterday at the hospital, we saw you with this bottle. And though the contents spilt during the course of our meeting, a small quantity remained.
Ah.
According to the defense's independent analysis, Sholmes' chemistry set, the liquid was still in the bottle was identified as strychnine. What? Strychnine? The very same poison that afflicted Shamspeare?
Ah!
Miss Green, you broke into this man's lodgings for one reason and one reason alone. To cover the end of the pipe that feeds the gas lamp in Shamspeare's room.
Can this be? You broke into my room to...
It may seem incredible to the court, but from the remaining clues, there is only one logical conclusion. The person who attempted to take Shamspeare's life with poison was you, Miss Olive Green.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dearie me.
Oh fuck. Oh no.
Oh, order, counsel, are you seriously suggesting this woman put poison on the end of the gas pipe?
Yes, my lord. There's no other way to explain the facts.
But if Miss Green did indeed set this odious trap 6 days ago, and the victim had put his mouth to the pipe that very evening as expected, the attempted murder would have happened 6 days ago, surely?
Well, that's a good point. Perhaps not, my lord.
I beg your pardon?
I wasn't invited. Sykes gonna help us, Ty? There was a significant police presence in the area that evening on account of the incident on Briar Road. Local residents were being interviewed throughout the night as part of the ongoing inquiry. A circumspect criminal would likely have chosen not to carry out any wrongdoing at that time. Lord Von Zykes? And of course, the following morning there was more activity at Shamspeare's address. More activity? Ah, yes, you mean his fellow lodger Natsume being arrested. That's right, and as the defense has already proposed, Mr. Shamspeare was meddling with the gas in the pipe for a very sinister reason himself. To cause the gas stove in Natsume's room to go out, thereby asphyxiating the occupant. But once Natsume had been arrested, his room was under constant surveillance by the police. In the circumstances, Shamspeare had no reason to blow air into the gas pipe. His intended victim being in a prison cell. With the need to tamper with the gas removed, the poison on the pipe lay dormant. And then, 3 days ago now, the situation changed again. Right, Natsume's trial, which took place here at the Old Bailey, came to an end. The trial in which the man stood accused of stabbing Miss Green. That resulted in Natsume returning to his lodgings for the first time in 2 days. And that very night, his gas stove mysteriously went out and Shamspeare was mysteriously poisoned. In conclusion, the poison that was present on the mouth of the gas pipe had been put there in the victim's room some 4 days earlier.
Mary!
With that new understanding, it becomes clear that this letter was all part of the plan.
What plan?
The court will recall that the note gave instructions to visit the Slug and Salad at 5 o'clock, and that the recipient should tell nobody else. The reason for those instructions are now clear. To ensure that the lodger would not be at home at the stated time.
To make sure I wasn't home?
I didn't even think of that. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, exactly. While you were out, Miss Green could safely slip into your room, knowing that she wouldn't be disturbed.
You mean to say that letter
Was written by Miss Green, yes, and in order to cover her tracks, she took it away with her when she left. Just after she smeared poison over the mouth of the gas pipe in your room.
Order, order. What do you have to say for yourself, witness? Just who are you? Why did you try to kill me?
Miss Green's motive should be obvious. It's all tied up with someone whose name we've heard several times already during the course of this trial. So, that's what's behind all of this.
You will share your apparent understanding. Which person?
Well, it's my boy.
Take that!
Duncan Ross.
That's right. Before the defendant, Mr. Natsume, took up residence in the lodgings at Gary's, somebody else was renting the room, Mr. Duncan Ross. I knew I'd heard the name somewhere else. It was all over the papers a month ago, when the man died in strange circumstances at the haunted lodgings.
That does ring a vague... Ah, of course. Yes, I remember now. The young man they claimed was strangled by the convict's curse or some such.
Sadly, my lord, it wasn't a curse of any kind, nor was it an accident. The man died as a result of Shamspeare blowing into the gas pipe and causing gas to leak into the room. It was murder, plain and simple.
Ah! Well, what do you know? The world is so unfair. Curses, curious deaths. That's all people care about. If it's an interesting story they want to know, it doesn't cross their minds that real people are involved. And once they're bored, just 1 month later, once the story's lost its appeal, everyone's forgotten him. You mean Duncan was...
Mr. Ross was Miss Green's fiancé.
Fiancé?
You may not have known until now who Miss Green really is, Shamspeare. But she's known exactly who you are all along. Because you're her sworn enemy, the murderer who took the life of the man she was to marry.
Marry?
Miss Green, is it not the case that in order to exact revenge on Shamspeare, you smeared poison over the end of the pipe?
This is all quite extraordinary. Am I correct in my understanding that you now accuse both parties, counsel? Each on different counts of murder?
Yeah, they've been killing people all over the place, haven't they? Yes, my lord, that's correct.
Objection!
Inhaling so deeply, it appears that my fledgling learned friend has taken in a lungful of dubious gas that's causing his judgment to be clouded. What? Why would Shamspeare have wanted to kill these lodgers, as you say? You have completely failed to prove a motive to substantiate your accusation against the man.
Yes, that's right, Mr. Reaper, my liege. I have been slighted. 'Tis lies, all lies. I deny every utterance.
And you'll have to forgive me, Mr. Naruhodo, sir. But I don't intend to admit anything either, Miss Green. I'm sure you'll think I'm being rude, but I'm not going to be sent to the gallows for the likes of this scoundrel. But you broke into the man's room. If you didn't do it to smear poison on the pipe, what was your reason?
I thought I'd have a look around, that's all.
Oh, fucking incredible. Sorry?
You're right, I suspected him. So I thought perhaps I might find some evidence or something in his room. Evidence that it was him who took Duncan's life.
Oh, vileness, oh, villainy, oh, tyranny, oh, rotundity of woman. But in any case, when I leave my room, I do turn the lock in the key.
That whole place is falling apart. The locks on the doors are no different. Duncan showed me once how to unlock the door with some terps and a piece of wire.
Oh, awfulness, oh, artfulness, oh, tyranny, oh, profanity of woman.
We will consider your trespassing on some future occasion, but for now, tell the court what you found, what evidence your search revealed.
Well, I spotted the note I'd sent him laying on the floor. When I went to pick it up, I noticed something. One of the floorboards was loose, and underneath it I discovered a secret hiding place.
Eh?
Yes, we also discovered that hiding place. This would explain why the box is empty. Inside we found a newspaper cutting, a photograph, and an empty box.
Yes, well, the thing is, when I found it, the box wasn't empty.
What? There was something in it?
Yes. This rather nice key.
Ah! What are you doing with that?
What the? Every ounce of color has drained from his face.
Give it here. Give it here now. It's mine. I inherited it.
What was that, witness? What did you say? You inherited it?
No,
What's all this about? He inherited that key?
It was obviously important to you since you'd gone to such lengths to hide it, so I took it. I don't know what it's for, but you took something precious from me, so I took something precious from you. So what if it means you can't open something now? I don't care.
Give it back this minute. Give it to me.
Calm yourself, witness. So Shamsphere has tried, and in one case succeeded, to take the life of 2 lodgers. Yes, his motive for doing so is the key to everything that's happened. It's true there appears to be no motive to support the accusation against Shamsphere at first, but considering everything we know, I think there is actually something that could explain it. What? I need to recall every piece of evidence, everything we've seen and heard, because I'm sure that I just caught a glimpse of the link that runs through all of these events.
In that case, counsel, I demand you present evidence.
So we will be presenting this for this one, right? Has to be, doesn't it? Has to be.
Take that! That's an official police report, is it not?
The Selden file? How did you get a hold of that?
Selden?
The now sadly deceased Mr. Ross and the defendant Mr. Natsume have only one thing linking them. The fact they had lodgings in the same room.
Well, yes, we know this.
A room that was formerly occupied by Selden, until, that is, he was arrested by Scotland Yard for his involvement in multiple burglaries.
I see.
And it so happens the convict Selden left behind one very substantial mystery when he died. The sum £1,000 worth of loot that he stole, which as yet remains to be found.
Ah, of course, it's coming back to me now. It's written in his file here.
£1,000 lost en route to hell. That was how the papers summed it up. And it seems that one particular fellow inmate was with the convict in his final moments. It's not hard to imagine Selden entrusting that inmate with his most closely guarded secret, the location of the stolen loot, and perhaps a key to unlock whatever containers the valuables were in.
You mean this key is...
Mr. Shamsphere, it was you, wasn't it? You were at the capital offender's side when he died, were you not?
What are you talking about? It is a false charge, I tell you, a false charge.
The name of the inmate who was with Selden at his death isn't noted in this file. But a simple telegram to the prison where he died would quickly tell us how false the charge really is.
But even if it's true, why would the man be so intent on killing every subsequent occupant?
There's only one explanation for that, my lord. It was in that very room that Selden hid his loot. So, it all comes out. Yes, and having established that, all of Shamspeare's subsequent actions start to make perfect sense. When he was let out of prison following Selden's death, he made immediately for Mr. Gary's lodgings in the hope of renting Selden's old room. However, the retired army man was unable to offer him the accommodation of his choice. Because Selden's old room had already been let to somebody else, Mr. Duncan Ross. Which is why Mr. Shamspeare subsequently devised his gas-based plot to kill the occupant. And when he was successful, he presumably intended to inquire about switching into the newly vacant room. However, a certain jittery someone had beaten him to it.
Mr. Soseki Natsume, the defendant of this case.
So, you decided to use the ploy with the gas again, didn't you, Shamspeare? This time to oust Natsume. And all for one simple and very avaricious reason. To get your hands on the 1,000 pounds of loot left behind by the dead convict. Looks like I'm gonna snuff it. Listen, I want you to have me loot. Anything to stop, should not keep clicking, is hidden in the room where I was lodging when they got me. Here, this is the key to it. Take it. Always stay one step ahead, mate. See you in hell, I guess. Shamspeare.
It's mine.
What did he just say?
It's mine. That loot is mine.
Oh. Shamspeare?
It's all lies. I don't accept any of it. Why should I? After all, you don't have a shred of evidence. You can't prove I killed that fellow. Forsooth, I am the victim here, remember? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? If I don't admit to it, there's nothing you can do. You can't arrest me, for the time being anyway. Verily, you can't arrest the victim, can you? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? I'm so close. I just need a few more hours. I swore to myself that I'd get my hands on it, and I can almost taste it now. Do you really think I'd just give up?
There's no question in my mind now, this man is guilty through and through. But he seems so utterly intoxicated by the idea of that loot. I'm afraid that however hard you press him, he'll never admit to what he's done. There is a way. Pardon? There's one way I can finish him. No. He's already committed the most heinous crimes to get his hands on that loot, which means all we need to do is find it first. A fine plan. Were it not for the fact the police thoroughly searched the room following the death of Mr. Ross. If it's there at all, it must be very well hidden indeed.
Without conclusive evidence, I certainly cannot rule.
If only there was some way we could find the convict's loot quickly. This is the final piece in this complex puzzle, but I think we might have it in our possession already. Or rather, I think we may well have something that can help us find where that loot is hidden. My lord.
Yes, counsel?
The defense would like to make a proposal about how to find the convict's hidden loot. I believe we are already in possession of something that could give us a clue to its whereabout. The meter. It's our last chance, so it has to be worth a gamble. Besides, we've used the same technique once already, and it definitely paid off then.
Very well. What do you propose we can use in order to locate the hiding place?
No, it can't be the gas meter. I was thinking it could have been hidden in the compartment because Natsume would have been way too poor to do that. But, I mean, the inmate didn't know he was going to be a poor person was going to be in there after him, did he? And Duncan was actually in there before that, so no, guess not. The floorboards, then? Maybe it's this picture? Showing that we could identify a place in the... Or showing that, like, this is how we found the hole in the floor, was by using the skin prints. And we could use the skin prints to find a place that had been frequently touched, or, because this revealed the floorboards, then the floorboards downstairs could be moved as well.
Take that!
If I'm not mistaken, those are Shamspeare's handprints.
I'm a fucking genius. That's right, my lord. Exposed as a result of the defense's independent investigation of the scene. Based on a wonderful new discovery in the field of forensic science.
A great detective? Is that some kind of joke? Do you really think I'm going to be daunted by a man with such a ridiculous title?
I should think the great bard ought to recognize such a title when he hears one, Mr. Shamspeare. Perhaps we should compete for the honor of most ridiculous title.
Ah, 'tis Herlock Sholmes himself.
What are you doing here, great detective? Your usual haunts are the filthy back streets of the capital, are they not? Ah, Mr. Reaper, it's been too long, and I see your complexion has worsened since last we met. Mr. Sholmes, he does, yeah, you know.
Mr. Sholmes, though you may be heralded as a great detective by the population at large, that does not give you the right to come and go in my courtroom.
If I may, my lord, Mr. Sholmes' newly developed scientific method has helped us uncover vital clues already.
Clues, you say?
I call them skin prints, my lord. My method identifies every location touched by an individual under scrutiny. It's the method by which we were able to ascertain gentlemen's gas pipe activities.
Ah,
you need only a small sample of something the individual has previously touched to make such an indicator solution. In your case, sir, I used the teacup you had been holding. So now, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. What am I to use as a sample to make the indicator solution this time? Thank you for offering to help, Sholmes. When the convict was arrested, he was living in what is now Saseki-san's room. We need a sample to help him locate. From what form will the sample take? We probably... I mean, we present a person and we present Miss Green, right? Because this was not touched by him, 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 this was not touched by him. So it has to be a person. All the evidence we have is not something he touched. So it has to be present Miss Green for the key, doesn't it? We'll need something of Selden's in order to create the indicator solution, and something the convict happened to be in possession of somebody listed in the court record. Upon my word, Miss Naruhodo, your powers of reasoning appear to be on the up. So, which particular person do you have in mind?
Take that!
Miss Green.
Me?
The key around your neck, if you please.
Sorry?
The key belonged to Selden. There will be remnants of secretions from the man's skin on its surface. Very true. That is the sample we need. Using it, we can create the indicator solution required for Sholmes' skin print seeker. And find out exactly what Selden touched in the room that he used to rent. Mr. Shamspeare, as one great to another, I assure you. If the late convict's hall is hidden somewhere in his former lodgings, I shall uncover it in no more than 30 minutes. So, Mr. Shamspear, the truth is well within our grasp now, and as such, you will never get your hands on the Selden's stolen wealth.
Yeah.
In that case, I'll gladly let Sholmes have this key.
No, give that to me. The detective shan't have it.
It's over, Shamspear.
No.
You're out of options now. There's only one thing left for you to do. Admit your guilt.
Whoa.
Hello, my son. You arrived just in time.
Oh, shameful spear, despair. By be thy name.
We got him, lads. My son, are you coming up or not? Fucking cats, dude. What are you doing?
I never intended to kill the man. I just wanted to drive him out of the room, that's all.
So you'd have time to find the convict's haul of stolen goods. Yet after you killed the young man, you still didn't move into the room.
I asked the landlord, of course. I pleaded with him, but he refused.
Why?
I was 3 months behind with rent, for one thing. And he had the gas repair work done immediately afterwards, putting the room out of action for a while. And then this Japanese man swooped in at the last moment to sign the new lease.
Poor Natsume. What unfortunate timing.
Then, 5 days ago, after the incident on Briar Road when the Japanese fellow got himself arrested, I thought I'd finally have my chance, but it wasn't to be.
No, the scene was sealed and guarded by the police night and day. And if I remember rightly, Sholmes spent the whole day in there reading books.
I couldn't even enter the room, let alone search for the loot.
Which is why, on the day Natsume was acquitted and returned to his room, you once again tried your trick of blowing air into the gas pipe. Unbeknownst to you, however, that action would lead you into a deadly trap.
William Shamspear. How does it go? To be or not to be? That is the question.
From Shakespeare's Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 1.
Well, let me tell you, in your case, it's not to be. That is the answer. You deserve to die for what you've done. Damn!
Ha.
At first, I really did think it was just a terrible accident. I'll never forget our conversation the night before Duncan died.
The gas supply in my new lodgings are a complete disaster, you know, Olive. The gas supply? Yes, the stove always seems to go out in the middle of the night for some reason. That's no joke. They say it's the convict's curse.
Oh, Duncan, please, don't stay there. I don't care how cheap it is.
Alright then, if it's that important to you, I'll start looking for a new place. There are some spare rooms at my house. Why don't you leave that horrible room tonight? No, I'd better not. We'd said we'd wait until we graduated before we told our parents, remember?
But that was the last time we ever spoke. That very night, he fell victim to the gas.
Hello again, my son. Have you decided what you want to do now? Are you aware that you're a cat? What are you doing? Come on. There you go. If only I'd known it was going to happen. Oh, there he goes, immediately. Fucking cats, dude.
If only I'd known it was going to happen, I'd have insisted he left that horrible room that instant. But instead, all I've been left with is bitter regret. I stopped going to school. But something kept drawing me back to the house on Briar Road. I saw a stooped Eastern-looking man with a mustache coming out of the house one day when I was there. He walked up to Grub's Grubbery for some food, so I followed him.
and sat myself down next to him. He had some watery-looking soup and started to pick a quarrel with the publican.
That place is cursed, I tell you. Cursed! The ghost of that convict who used to live there is trying to suffocate me. I woke up in the middle of the night, freezing to death because the stove was out. The room is full of gas and I can hardly breathe. But the pipes have been checked, no problem there. It's like I'm the problem, that's what they're thinking.
But how could that be? Duncan was gone, and now this man had almost suffered the same fate. Could it really be a curse? Then I remembered. A rumor I'd heard about how the gas companies go around investigating the gas installations. A rumor? Ah, you mean... Yes, everybody's heard the stories, it seems, about how they go around checking the pipes. How anything connected to the gas could be extinguished by blowing air into the pipework. That's when it started. A little flicker of doubt in the back of my mind that just wouldn't go away. Was it really an accident, though? Once I had the idea, it wouldn't leave me alone. It plagued me day and night. So I brought this at one of the black markets in the East End. A black market? I'd never been. I just heard people talk about them. My son! You have jumped up and down from the desk 3 times now. What are you doing? Yes, I'm aware you're a cat. Yes, please. Okay, yes, there you go. I'd never been. I'd just heard people talk about them, and you really can buy anything you can think of there. In some ways, being able to get my hands on this so easily made me even more determined. I had to find out one way or another. Was Duncan's death an accident, or was it murder? And your chosen method for establishing the truth was simple, but highly effective. Smear poison on the gas pipe you suspected the man of tampering with, and wait. If Shamspeare was innocent, nothing would come of what you'd done. But if he was guilty, he would pay for his crimes dearly. There was another way this could have backfired. What if, like, a gas worker just tried to do it? He, like, just tried to check the pipes, right? I found out the name of the man I suspected, William Shamspeare. Then I wrote him this little note. I have information, come to bribe, we know. If he'd done it, I knew that would worry him enough he'd be sure to go. So I waited to see if it worked. And of course, Shamspeare followed the instructions to the letter. I worked out where the gas pipe was straight away, so I smeared a good amount of the poison I'd bought all around the mouth of the pipe. All the time praying the devil's work wouldn't be done, and that it was all just some wild fantasy. Actually, no. All the time praying that the devil's work would be done, and that culprit would get his just deserts.
"3 days ago, when you were first stood in the dock before me, this whole affair seemed relatively straightforward.
Yes, my lord.
I certainly never imagined the depths of depravity that we would subsequently find lurking.
It has been a long road, my Nipponese friend. Oh, yes. And one I certainly didn't envisage walking with you.
Nevertheless, together we have reached the light at the end of the tunnel. Miss Green,
Yes, my lord.
you will henceforth be stripped of your freedom, and as punishment for the attempted murder of William Shamspeare.
Yes, I know.
And you, Shamspeare, you will be tried for the murder of Duncan Ross in cold blood, and the subsequent attempted murder of Mr. Soseki Natsume.
Mr. Naruhodo, Yes? Yesterday, at the hospital, when you and your friend stopped me from ending your life by drinking what was left. I wasn't myself. I can't even really remember what I was going through my mind. To be or not to be, I suppose. That's a question that's so hard to answer, it seems. Well, personally, I'm glad of your being here, Miss Green. Oh, and I'd like to believe that it's a blessing Shamspeare didn't die when he ingested the poison. For your sake, at the very least. Because of you, I chose life, not death. And now you've made the truth come out at last. Really, I can't thank you enough. Oh, Miss Green.
Mr. Soseki Natsume?
Yes, my lord.
The court declares that you are exonerated from all blame. Accordingly, I will call upon the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to present a verdict of not guilty.
There goes the boy again. We are in full agreement, my lord.
In that case, I hereby declare the defendant.
We did it, team. We saved the city once again. That was a pretty weird one.
Court is adjourned.
Oh, yes, yes, at last. Divine justice duly done.
Divine justice? My dear fellow, if there were any divine justice in this world, you would shave that mustache.
No, this has had nothing to do with my mustache.
Some say that a luxuriant mustache is a sign of physical prowess, Mr. Sholmes.
Locum student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. Once again, you saved me from doom.
I'm very happy to have been of help, Mr. Natsume. Congratulations on your acquittal, your second in almost as many days.
I was first acquainted with and gained affection for English literature whilst in our great homeland empire. And then, by a twist of fate, I was brought to the land that bore the fruit of that literature. Only, the city of bricks and mortar became my prison. Try as I might, I never found my feet. In the end, I confided myself to my room and lived through friendly old books.
You've had such a difficult time, haven't you? Ah, but a week ago now, I dragged you out of that dark and dingy room of yours, did I not?
You did, and I've seen more of life in this week than in all my years to date. And for the first time, I feel I've begun to see the true face of English that's been so far hiding from me behind a wall of fog.
My dear fellow, there is nothing special about the true face of the English, as you put it. Wheresoever one goes in the world, humans are humans. There are few genuine differences.
Yes, I think you're right. I've finally started to see that, and I've come to understand something. I've worked out why I was attracted to English literature in the first place. It made me see that whatever our nationality, we humans all have the same hopes and fears. We all just doing our best to live.
Well said, have come to feel the same way.
I've made a decision. I'm going to cut my study tour short and return to Japan.
What? Just when we become friends here in England, what a terrible shame.
I know, that does tug at my heartstrings, it really does. But I've decided I'd like to take everything I've learned here in Britain and write something of my own. A novel of sorts, I suppose.
Oh, so you'll be creating your own literature. How wonderful.
Oh, well, no, I mean, I wouldn't presume to call it literature.
Why not, when that is precisely the definition, Mr. Mustache?
I suppose you're right, yes, it will, in a way, be literature. But as of now, all I know is that I'd like to try my hand at writing. I have no delusions of grandeur.
I, for one, would love to read your work. Well, all things considered, it may be for the best. After all, you have once again emerged victorious from a battle with the Reaper, though you are now double cursed. That's very true. And there is no salvation from a person in the dock when the Reaper is the prosecutor. You're doing a great job of helping here, right now. The desire to return post-haste to the safety of your homeland is one I quite understand. My goodness, yes, faced with such a terrifying prospect. Nobody would consider that cowardly, I'm quite sure.
But that's not why I'm leaving. I mean it.
And that was the case that we found ourselves embroiled in 6 months ago. So Seki-san did return to Japan and submitted a report about both cases to the government. It was on reading that report that Professor Mikatoba was prompted to visit the scholar, and barely any time later, Sasato-san was given the news that she must return to Japan, on the back of a telegram stating falsely that her father had fallen ill. The only possible explanation that comes to mind is what happened after the trial on the following day, the day we uncovered the loot hidden by the now-deceased victim. The now-deceased convict. Ah, well done, Mr. Sholmes. How simply marvelous of you. To uncover the secret hiding place in just one day. Wasn't it supposed to take 30 minutes? As I believe I told you, my dear fellows, skin prints are extremely useful in such situations. Wouldn't you agree, Gregson? Gregsy's been happily munching in agreement this whole time, you know, Hurley. Happily, I think perhaps humorlessly might be closer. So, it transpires the man fashioned a hiding place in the ceiling. And what's in it? What exactly is the loot? Let us look then, if you're ready. Let's examine the late burglar's haul. What is that? Huh. It looks to be some sort of neckband or collar. B. Where do we know that's got a B? A collar? It's huge, though. And look at all the gemstones set in it. I can see why it was claimed to be worth £1,000. Perhaps I could have it as a belt. Oh, have you noticed on the inside? There are some dark stains. You don't think they could be blood, do you? I mean, there's quite a lot of it. On second thought, perhaps I won't have it as a belt. Then, of course, there's this emblem here. A large letter B and a small crown. What does it signify, do you think? Oh, I hadn't noticed. I feel as though I've seen that emblem somewhere before, you know? Where could it have been? That's enough of that, I think. Oh, Baskerville. What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes? All the color is drained from his face. Well, Inspector, I believe you ought to be taking this, oughtn't you? It could be valuable evidence, after all. It must be kept safely under lock and key. Ah, yes. Get your grubby hands off that, you lot, and hand it over, now. I'd never seen a collar that large before, and all those jewels certainly looked extremely valuable. But that's not what stood out to me, at least not once I'd noticed it. Those dark marks on the inside of the collar, those stains, could they have been blood? I mean, what else? Well, that was a funny case, wasn't it? But it's all buttoned up now. And you look very pleased, Iris. I am, because I was starting to wonder what I could use as the basis of this month's story. But this case will be perfect. It's been so fascinating. You're talking about the latest installment of Adventures of Sholmes. The mystery of the knife in the mist and the mustached man in the convict's curse, perhaps. I think it could make a 2-part story. Oh, I can't wait. A word, please, Iris. Yes, what is it, Hurley? I'm sorry, but you can't write about this case. It's out of the question. What? Why not? It's a great case. Then I shall have to insist that you limit yourself to the first of your 2 titles. The second must never be written. Is that clear? Yes.
And so it was that the second of Souseki-san's cases became buried in obscurity.
Oh, I have to click.
Now, looking back, I feel I understand. I can see why Mr. Sholmes forbade Iris from publishing the story. It would take a little longer before I saw the link between everything that had happened and would happen. For it wasn't until 2 months after the arrival of Susato-san's letter that events began to unfurl again, with an incident that took place at the very heart of the eagerly awaited Great Exhibition of London.
Oh no. Alright, man, what's going on with this fucking Baskerville nonsense, dude?